Buenos Dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it, you already know. Like a motherfucking smack addict. Bye up, bye up. In a menudo style and direct fashion, we're going to get straight to the content of the day. But before we do, let's hit that like and subscribe button. Put that notification bell on all so that way you're directing the direction of the dope content that I'm kicking. And I appreciate all the support, man. I'm very, very humbled by it, right? So who's going to get busted first? Who do you think's going to get caught first? They're going to get caught. It's only a matter of time. There's a manhunt for 2 killers out there. One on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. Who has the wiggle to make it wiggle, right? Who's going to last longer than the other? Because best believe, man, I have theories. I have theories in this situation. And I believe that both of these individuals will be caught. One dead, one alive. And that's just the truth of the matter. So when it comes to who's going to get caught first, the Delano escapee, the guy who escaped from Delano prison from transport, the court transport, I don't know. I don't know if that guy's going to get caught first. I believe the NYC assassin, the one who allegedly assassinated, or not even allegedly, but the guy that they're looking for, and that's him right there in the back, that's what they got of him, right? And just by his structure of his face and the top of his eyes, you know, there's been a lot of people thinking he's of Latino heritage. I don't think so. I think he looks more Middle Eastern, maybe even Jewish. I don't know, but I believe he will be caught dead. I believe he will be caught first, and I'm going to explain exactly why. You know, with the Delano escapee, people automatically assume he's in Mexico already. They automatically assume he wiggled straight to Mex, he got out the way. But you have to understand, when he did his crime, okay, when he escaped, it wasn't like he escaped and he had hours before they were caught on, right? This wasn't fucking Escape from Alcatraz. When this guy escaped, immediately they were on his scent. Immediately, all law enforcement agencies within the area were tracking this guy, right? He was able to elude them. So while everyone thinks, hey, he immediately went to Mexico, best believe they're watching the whole frontera. It's hard for him or anyone that looks like him to make it into Mexico right at this moment. They are watching. They got people on it. I don't think he ever made it to Mexico, to be honest with you. I think he's holed up somewhere, posted up, out the way, and understands that if he sticks his head out that rabbit hole, his shit's going to get bopped off. He will be caught, right? So I think he's of an understanding that with him, he's already a lifer. He's already got bodies under his belt. He already knows what time it is. He understands that it's one and done. This is his only chance at fresh air. So he's staying low key. I don't believe he'll be caught first. I actually believe this guy is of an understanding, and where he's at, he's able to stay right there surrounded by some good gente for a minute or two, right? I don't think this guy's going to get caught first. I actually believe it's the assassin that will be caught first, just because the money involved and the person and the victim and how it went down. Now, we all seen the footage. If you haven't seen the footage, I can't show it to you here just because it's too graphic in nature. But as that CEO was walking out of the building or walking down the street, this guy, this assassin, alleged assassin, came out in between 2 parked cars and gauged this guy to death, right? Now, it looked like a hit. You know, a lot of people got a different spin to it. To me, that looked like a planned, executed hit. It wasn't random. He definitely wasn't trying to rob anyone. Didn't take any possessions off this man. He was definitely lying in wait. So, of course, that is capital murder. That is a capital punishment type crime. When you lie in wait, it's premeditated. He was waiting on this guy. He had the perfect identification, knew what this guy looked like, knew this guy's timeline, knew when this guy would be coming out, and just lied right there and waited. Came out and did his thing. Now, with something as graphic, as horrific, as planned and calculated as this, it came from the top. It came from this guy was involved. The victim was involved in something a little bit over his head. Maybe he knew, maybe he didn't know. In either case, man, there was a reason why they needed to get him out of the way for whatever the situation was. Now, there's a lot of people putting in a lot of detail on their content about the guy. One thing I could tell you for sure is this guy's not going to get away. And I don't believe they're going to take him alive, because I don't believe the powers that may be that put this whole program in motion for this guy to do this hit want him to be captured alive. Do I believe they're hot on his trail? Absolutely. They know a lot. It's funny how all of a sudden a lot of these larger media platforms are getting these pictures, these close-up pictures of him. And I can tell you right now, just off the structure of his nose and his eyebrows, that Vato looks a lot like a Middle Eastern fella, right? Now, I don't know who he is or what he's about, if he was paid a certain amount of money, if he's an assassin, man, that has done these things before. But they're just not going to find old Willie Lump Lump right off the bus, man, to do something like this. This guy was trained. This guy was cold. He was calculated. He knew exactly what he was there for, right? And I believe he'll be busted first. But I don't believe they'll get him alive. Because I believe at the end of the day, there's things that he knows, people that hired him that want to keep this as quiet as they can. Now, as brazen and as crazy as this attack was, you know, things like this happen all the time. It's the nature of the beast, right? Especially in cities like New York, LA, bigger cities, Chicago. You know, you have people attacked daily, broad daylight. It happens. Now, this case, because the guy was a CEO of a big corporation, it was definitely an inside job. It was definitely a situation where he needed to be gotten out of the way. And this guy executed, planned it, and did it smooth, right? But I think they wanted it to be seen. See, nowadays, you're not getting away with nothing. There's so many cameras. People got Ring cameras. It's hard to facilitate a murder, any type of assault, without someone witnessing it or them getting a timeline on you or being able to go back and kind of watch your steps. Because they don't have to watch the assassin's step. They don't have to watch the person who's the victimizer. All they have to do is follow and trace the victim's steps. And somewhere along the line, man, if this guy was being watched, he came into some type of contact with this guy. They rubbed elbows. They might have walked past each other. This guy didn't just know exactly where he was at. He waited and watched and plotted and planned. That's a fact. You can tell by the way it was done. And the people who put this in motion, because I don't think this was just something he did. I mean, he could be a crazy that maybe got laid off, got fired, felt some type of way, went a little bit too mental and decided to pull up and pull out. But usually those guys, man, are not able to disappear in the wind like this guy was able to disappear. But how much disappearing did he really do? You know, how much are they really telling us? Of course, because the money and the status that this guy, the victim, had, you know, it's a national event. Meaning they're televising this all nationally. Everybody's wondering who did this and why. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of different reasons why. But usually when it goes that high and it's about that much money and there's that much involved, you know, it's money. It's money, or it's this guy was knowing a little too much, or he fucked over the wrong people. Whatever the case may be, you know, he met his demise. It's unfortunate, but it's typical. You know, it's typical, man. When you're high up on the ladder and other people want your throne, other people want to be on top of the mountain, then you're a victim. You know, it's only a matter of time. Now, I don't know what that CEO was into, whether it was some flim-flam bullshit, some dirty game, some dirty politicking. But whatever the case is, someone felt like he needed to go, and they utilized this guy to do it. And so for anything, I will say, I believe this guy will be caught first, but I don't believe that he's going to make it alive at all because he knows too much. You know, and we've seen a lot of things that happen, usually when it's planned hits or something like that. The guy who usually is the hitter, you know, so what? You know, he's easily disposable as well. These people don't want nothing getting back to them. So if anything, if they find out his whereabouts, he's going to be fucking taken out immediately too. That's just how that goes. Now, are the cops involved? Is it something, a grand scheme? One never knows. You don't know. As corrupt as this world is that we live in, man, there's probably a lot of people involved that we don't even think about or could even care about, right? Now, with the Delano Escapee, it's a whole different story. This is a guy who's seen an opportunity and took it. You know, I did a video last week about him, and I can tell you right now, when you are a lifer, and I've never been a lifer, I did life on the installment plan. I did years here, years there. But there were always times when I felt like, man, you know, some of these guys, if they got a chance to wiggle, they would wiggle. Now I'm going to tell you two stories, because in that video, I have to correct myself. In that video I did about the Delano Escapee, I mentioned that I never escaped. That was a lie, right? And it wasn't a lie I meant to tell as a lie. I just forgot. Someone had to remind me. You know, I was in a facility, a farm. We called it the farm, right? Sandy Mush years ago. And, You know, there was back then, now it's all concrete walls, but back then the walls were real thin in between the dorms. And you had 400 side, 500 side, 600 side. And I remember I was on, I think it was 500 side. It could have been 500. And it was all back windows. And they were pretty big windows. Windows that you could wiggle through if you were small enough. I was skinny. I could wiggle through the windows. And what had happened was one of the guys that worked out there, I'm not going to say no names. It's been years. I don't even remember, right? Way over the statute of limitation. But one of the guys who worked maintenance was able to loosen one of those windows. Now, at first, we knew this window was loose, so we would take the window down at night in the dorm, and we'd go and we'd fuck with the next dorm and do all that. Eventually, one of us got the bright idea to have our lady pull up and throw things over. We were able to grab it. Eventually, a few of us decided to hit the fence. Now, you got to understand, this wasn't a high maximum security facility at this time. This was a minimum facility. Guys were doing a year and less. Dudes were wiggling, right? There was dudes. It was so flooded with dope. It was so flooded with anything you could think of, right? Back then, we didn't really have cell phones, or weren't even thinking about cell phones too much. They weren't like they were now. It was more like throw a burrito from the taco truck over, throw a little dope, throw a little fucking whatever, right? So the escape game was real. I guess you could call it that. But as far as doing something like the Delano Escapee, I never would even fathom doing that. But I have looked at people and been like, damn, why wouldn't they do that, right? Now, let me explain to you. I was out of state doing time. And one guy was able to escape. He was a lifer. He actually was in on a weird charge, right? Now, you got to understand, in the state Oregon where I was doing time, they had weirdos amongst everyone. They had dudes with bad charges. It was kind of like, hey, if you got settled with one, you had to handle your business. If you didn't handle your business, you might as well stay in that fucking cell with that dude and do weird shit with them like Diddy, right? Because that's just how that was. For the most part, everyone could kind of identify and tell who was in on some weird charges, but there were some righteous-looking individuals all blasted back that had some bad shit going on. That's just the way that system ran. You couldn't escape it, man. It was what it was. So anyways, this guy was in a prison. And according to what happened, I was in the hole at the time in a whole different prison. They ended up transferring him. When they did rearrest him, you know, let me tell you the story. So the guy, what happens is he's working in the kitchen. And why these guys even allowed him to walk amongst them was questionable. But he seen a flaw. He seen a kink in the system. And what had happened was they would bring these crates of milks, right? These milk jug, they're milk crates with all the individual milks. That's what you got handed out on your tray. You got individual milks. You would open the cartons like the ones at school. And what happened was they would come in these fucking black milk crates. And so when they were ready to go out, you would take these milk crates. They would fill them with all these extra jugs and things that they had from the fucking the kitchen. And they would put them on this pallet, and then they would cellophane it up, and they would come pick it up, take it to outside, right? Now, this guy decided that for no other reason. He seen the flaw. He got in the middle on one of these pallets, and these dudes helped him. Now, I remember a lot of dudes got DP'd for this. There was a lot of conversation about why these guys would help this fucking weirdo who was a chomo, right, escape. But they did. I don't know why. I wasn't there. But he was able to get in the middle of these milk crates. They put all these milk crates around him, cellophaned it up, and he made it, right? So this guy made it to the streets, was able to wiggle, bust out of the milk crates, get on, push the dude down, got away. They were already looking for him, whatever. Now, the tragic part of this story is this guy ended up going to the nearest apartment complex and doing a fucking home invasion. Now, the people that he home invaded was a young woman and her 13-year-old son or 14-year-old son, I forget, right? And it gets a little graphic in nature from there. And how do I know this story? Because he told it on the tier, and I had to yell out on the tier for him to shut the fuck up and stop bumping baking soda breath, because I got tired of hearing him spew the story like it was fucking like he was winning a gold medal or something, like he was telling a story about the Olympics. But the story went like this. This guy goes, does this home invasion, catches this single mother and her son, and does some bad shit for 3 days with the son tied up to the mother, right? Now, eventually, over time, he realizes, I guess there's no money, there's nothing there for him to, facilitate this escape and continue it. And he wasn't really in it to get out. This guy was a weirdo and was in it for one thing and one thing only. And I'm not going to repeat what he said on the tier, but he was a fucking idiot. And so what happens is he literally walked back to the prison, knocked on the front gate of the prison and say, here I am. They rearrested him, sent him to our facility, man, shipped him out from there. He was in the hole, man. Everybody was talking about it. that was the one time I ever fucking heard someone that escaped just gave themselves up because they just didn't have nowhere to run to or turn to. Now with this Delano Escapee, it's a different story. This guy's not in on nowhere charges. This guy is actually with the business or with the functions. So they're saying, right? And, you know, a lot more went into this escape than people know. You know, a lot more planning and plotting went into this than people understand. And you don't understand, when someone is out there, he is definitely a threat to the community. He is definitely a threat to everyone around him. And he knows this, and he knows it's all point bulletins. Usually the people that give you up when you're on the run is going to be people that you know. It's going to be the people that are closest to you. So if he's smart, man, he got out the way and he's going to stay out the way. And I believe he's going to be able to stay out the way for a while. But do I believe he's in Mexico? I don't. Because you got to understand, when this guy just left, right, immediately they called it in all point bulletin. So best believe, because he is fucking Mexican, because they already know what time it is, most Mexicans, bam, are gone to the border. They already clamped that down. So he had to be fast. And let me tell you, Delano prison, where he escaped from, is several hours away from the frontera, the border, right? Now, of course, there's ways for him to wiggle in. You know, he would have to go through Texas or Arizona or whatever. And just like you see people, man, that cross the border over illegally, he could illegally cross over there because it's the same thing. He could get a hold of a coyote and fucking go over and whatever it is, right? So he may or may not be in Mexico. I don't believe he is, though. I believe the smartest thing for him to do was stay in the immediate area and hold up and hope that the people he has around him got their muzzle on lock, right? I don't think this guy's going to be caught anytime soon. I think he will be eventually, because it's only a matter of time. And I said in my last spill, what happens is when people are looking out for you and they're feeding you and they're fucking clothing you and they're, you know, nobody wants to look out for another grown man. I don't give a fuck what gang, what hood, what body you're from. Eventually, motherfuckers get tired of it, man. You know, and they understand, hey, this Vato's looking at life, but they don't want your drama. Your drama becomes their drama, and they don't need that or want that. So it ain't nothing for someone to pick up a phone and say, hey, here he is. Now, once they start involving rewards and all these things, you know, you live in when you're a gang member or you're involved in that life, you come from a gang of cutthroats. Dudes that are willing to fucking let you go for $5. It's a trip, right? You think in the gang life, man, everybody is loyal. Everybody's your homeboy. Everybody will ride for you and die for you. But that's furthest from the truth. Ain't no one trying to do none of that shit for you. Ain't no one trying to do no time for you. They ain't trying to die for you. They definitely ain't trying to lose their old lady for you or their children. None of that, right? But I believe that this guy calculated this plan and he's willing to do whatever he has to do. And he ain't going to go out like that. He's got people under the impression that if they don't look out for him, then bang, bang. It is what it is, you know? I've never been a lifer, like I said. I don't know what's going through this man's mind, but I know what's going on the second week of his escape, man. He's still not caught. This ain't the first 48. Usually if they don't catch you, they're not going to catch you for a minute. But he will be caught. Now, back to the NYC assassin. I believe they're hot on his trail. I believe they might actually know exactly where this guy's at. You know, and they're watching him. They're trying to see if he leads back to the people that put him in position to do this, right? When they realize that this guy is a bigger threat than they assume, I believe he will get got, right? Not by the authorities, but I believe he will get got and they will find him somewhere slumped, just because that's the way that this investigation is looking. There's a lot more to it than we are being told, you know? Anytime a big time CEO was hit or anyone like that with a gang of money, man, best believe you're not getting away with this shit. It just doesn't happen. They catch everybody, right? So, you know, I was asked last night about who do I think will get caught first. I believe the NYC assassin will get caught first, but I don't believe they're going to catch him alive. I believe they're going to find his body somewhere, or they just won't, you know, and that's that. Like I said, he could even be gone as we speak right now because of the nature of the crime and who was involved. With the Delano escape, it's a different story, man. He's a California guy, you know, just trying to wiggle and stay out the way. And, you know, he seems intelligent. He was intelligent enough to figure out the flaw and get the fuck on. But it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out, you know. What's this going to do in the CDC system? It's going to make things a lot harder. They're going to send more people on transport now. Now, things are going to be a lot more secure. But, hey, you know, it don't stop what is already started, and that's this manhunt. Again, man, they're looking for him. Will they catch him? Is he where people think he is? We don't know. I guess we're just going to have to figure it out as it goes out. You know what I mean? And we'll figure all this out. But, you know, that's my take on it. I believe the NYC assassin will get caught first, man. And for whatever reason, as money. Money and the notoriety of that case. Like I said, the Delano guy, man, there's egg on the CDCR's face right now. You know, how a level 4 inmate could escape and get away. Believe me, man, that's not a good thing for CDCR. They don't like to go out like that. They are a very big group, and they're not used to taking L's. So we'll see how all that plays out. But over there in New York, man, that's a different world. I'm not from there. I'm from the West Coast. So I don't know how they wiggle in NYC. But this is definitely a situation where, man, it's an ongoing investigation. And I truly believe they know exactly, they're on this guy's tail. They know exactly where he's at. With that being said, thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive, struggle, and strive for what I truly believe in. And that's the betterment of all people. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Bang, bang.